Hi, this is Dennis Dalton, the safety officer, and this is the our January wrap-up safety briefing for 2022. And we start off with the certs and solos. First solo, we had John Wilson, Mike Frank, Nick Hyder, and Brian Galen. And let me get my pointer out here. Private pilot, Walter Sachs, Eric Stillito. Instrument, John Ballin. Commercial, Ewan Edenfield. Multi-engine, Tyler Shields, Jeff Stell, and James Norman. So this is our operations review, as I said, for January 7th, 2023. I'm doing this a little after the fact. 1450 uniform, the most sorties at 400 last year. 7870 November, 390, and close behind that, 7874 with 380 sorties. 2022, we had total sorties at 2,793 with 4,704 hours flown. The year before, 2,584 total sorties, 4,491 total hours flown. The year 2022 member achievements totaled 52 certificates, ratings, and solos. So these are very similar to 2021 with a couple exceptions. 12 first solos, 15 new privates, 5 instrument, 5 commercial, 8 multi-engine, 2 multi-engine, 0 ATPs. I think in 2021 we had 2 initial CFIs and 4 II certificates for 2022. This is a breakdown of the cost and hours flown and the status of the aircraft. I had talked about 50 uniform in 2022. These aren't sorties now, these are actual hours flown. 635. 6 November is still around, but inactive. 70 November, 590. 74 November, which has the 275 GI system, 593 hours. 99 November, 641. 02 November, 532. 05, 390. 09, our D model with 608. We had some issues with 96 Charlie, which I think is, I'm not sure. I think it's back now. At the time I did this, it was not. 27 hours last year. Before that, had that flat problem. And of course, I think it was July that the 49 Romeo was removed offline. So that only had 84 hours last year. The 2 Beach 55s are pretty close at 300 and 303 hours for last year, as we're also using them for retracts. Might not be now, but we were at the time since 96 was out and 49 was gone. The list of the safety meeting subjects that we did last year. Of course, for January of 2022 was the operations review. February was the BASH program, which is a review of bird strike BASH program, which had the SOP requirements in this program to be reviewed twice a year, different types of birds that are encountered at KCOS, some statistics about how things are going, and then how to do the BASH forms 5207 and the AFMAN 583. March, we had a safety briefing on landings. This briefing reviews tools and teaching for consistent safe landings. 2 accidents involving undershooting and overshooting the runway were discussed. April, Would You Go? It was a VFR cross country with light rain and scattered storms. This was an unfamiliar cross country scenario in a light plane. And I included weather reports and risk management issues on that. I think that was in the Appalachians. May was a safety briefing. I had CIE Aviation Operations were presented by Safety Officer Pete Eunice. June, runway safety. Entering or exit runway requires good communication to avoid congestion, mishaps, and accidents. We talked about hot spots and construction NOTAMs. The KCOS taxiway was under construction at that time in June of 2022, so that's why we covered that. July was on, poor aircraft performance, hot days, or DAYS, if you want. During hot summer days, density altitude should be a consideration for every flight. This month's briefing looked at 2 aircraft accidents leaving, I think it was Aspen, I think I did, where you have to spiral up before you go over. A couple people didn't think they had to spiral up that high, and we had some issues there, and they didn't make it. August 30th, safety briefing was BASH again. As we have to do that twice a year, so I spread it out every 6 months. This one, I included a lot more about mammals and meaning pronghorn deer specifically. And there was a couple issues and an incident at Meadow Lake, which I added into the safety briefing for this one. September was pre-flight after maintenance, informative description of items to watch for when preparing to fly an aircraft after maintenance. This was compiled by the FAA FAST team and maybe was a little more towards owner pilots. But all pilots, regardless of renting or not, are responsible for the aircraft being airworthy. And as these are in maintenance quite a bit, because they fly a lot, it is your responsibility. October, boy, I don't know what I did there. Flight safety operations. November, this was one I took. This was about mic technique and best practices. That was, I think, off of the AOPA website. And that was it was a very large presentation that they did, and I distilled that down to about 1/3 of it. A lot of it was review, but there were some interesting things in there about using the microphone and the radios, and I think it also talked about some frequencies and where to look for certain things. So that's kind of a wrap-up of last year's safety meetings and topics. Any suggestions for future safety briefings are appreciated. You can just email me or whatever. My cell is on the list there. 2 items I'm working on are first, the Denver FSDO quarterly briefings. The last report had 14 training accidents that I hope we can get some valuable pointers out of those. I'm still waiting for them to send me that. The other is the NPP 30 Flight School Outreach, which is conducted by the FSDO safety managers. That's really Brian and Gina, but Brian has retired, and so Gina has been by herself, and I think she's a little behind now. At this time when I talked to her, we were going to set up the visit, and she was maybe going to come in March, but now I'm not sure what she was going to be out of the office for a while. She probably has to do some training or train somebody, and they're covering Wyoming too, so they have she's got a big loop, and now that they're waiting for Brian's replacement, that's a little difficult, so we'll see how that goes. This concludes the 2022 operations review, so it was kind of short. That's what it is. Dennis Dalton, Safety Officer.